This is a Patreon and YouTube special, and this is a very, very much requested box review or open of the H.M.S Victory, the Hella 1100 kit, and I've got my Bounty there, which is 1110 for comparison. But the biggest place I had to do this kit review was the daybed, and yep, it's best nap time. So I don't know if she's going to try and sort of eat the kit. We'll just have to see how we go. We need a lot of room to do this. This is a foot roll, if you like, and the box is more than a foot, almost 2 foot that way. And the box this way is basically 2 foot. The kit builds up to 1.1 meters long, with the bowsprit and the basically the boom, okay, the spanker boom there. So there, from there to there is 1.1 meters. All right, that's over a yard, and tall, it's about 70 centimeters tall. So that's about 2 1/3 feet. So it's a big kit, and that's the thing. I'd been building the Bounty and just about finished it. This is 3 years ago, and there was a big model exchange, PX, and at that exchange, they, other people are selling things, I'm buying things and that sort of thing, I'm selling things. It's all going on, okay? And I looked around and I wanted an old Airfix large sailing ship. I'd built all the small ones as a kid, but I'd never built like the 1/180 to 1/180 scale Victory, or anything, or even anything like the St. Louis that I'm building now, that Airfix kit. I could never get my hands on those. I couldn't afford them. That was a lot of money for me back then. I mean, they weren't that amount of money that they are now, but they were still a lot of money, okay? So this is going to be a bit of a low-key review, guys. I'm going to take it slowly because I'm not feeling very well. I killed myself doing that Gooch video the other day because I had all the doors and windows shut and the air conditioner off, and I got heat stroke. Yeah, I literally was sick as a dog yesterday, couldn't move. Anyhow, you requested this, I'm going to do it, but it's a live show, it's slow, and it'll be at the pace that I can cope. So, yeah, I looked around, there was nothing. Then this came up and was far too much money, far too much money. Wanted 13 shekels for it, okay? If you don't know what shekels are, you'll have to ask me later. So that's a lot of money in my book, and I didn't have it. But luckily I had kits for sale, so I sold a couple of my big tanks and things, had the cash, went and saw the guy, got it. And he assured me it was all there. It was too big a kit to really examine the shop. So let's have a look at that, okay? Because I know you're all fanging to see what's inside. But look, that is a 1110 Bounty, and we'll come back to the Bounty for scale. Okay, let's get the lid off this because it is huge, and hopefully Bask won't jump into the box because you know about cats and boxes. I hope you can all hear me clearly out there. Are you getting audio? Please type in the text then and let me know. Ah, Magic Morgana's here. Hello, Morgana. As I said before, this is only live because it's going to be a big video and I can't be bothered editing it. I'm not well enough, all right? So here is the hull. Okay, and that's the hull without the prow, all right? So without basically the whole bit that sticks out there, okay, which has got the head on it and everything like that, and without the bowsprit, which is going to take it out there, and of course that spanker boom goes out there. So that's how long that is. So let's just get the Bounty back. And although the Bounty is 1/110 scale, right, that's only 10%. Even then, you'll see that the hull itself is twice the length of the Bounty, okay? And if you add on the bowsprit and the tail boom, it's literally 3 times longer than the Bounty. It is huge. It is an enormous kit. Now, a lot of people have reviewed this, so I won't go too much over other things. I'm not going to talk about defects or problems, because basically this is just a huge kit of the Victory, and it's one of the few that you can get in this scale. Oh, sorry, Bask. Are we upsetting you, mate? Hey? Oh, you're going to have a sniff. All right. I think Basker's a bit fed up. She's leaving. All right, that's actually good because I was a bit worried. The wood grain has been, complained about. I love it. The wood grain on here is just superb. It's lovely. A few layers of paint and it'll look just right. Copper plating on the hull, the effect is quite good, although there's this funny sort of thing at the bottom here. And yes, there are slots for their proprietary stand. But any good modeler can fix that. That's not a big problem. And it's down the bottom there where it'll hardly be seen. So you only got to do a reasonably good job. It will never be in the mind's eye. Now, my kit is a 1980s moulding. It's the second release. This came out in 1979. So it is quite an old kit, but it is simply beautiful. I don't think anyone has done another 1/100 scale Victory in plastic because it would be a huge undertaking. To my mind, it is fairly good. It's fairly accurate for a sort of kit of the time. I know there's people out there who are so zealous and excited about the Victory and they will find faults, like the entrance here isn't, the little, basically, that actually wasn't there back at Trafalgar, I think you'll find. And so this is the thing, ships change. The colours of them change. I won't even go into pink Victories. Enough of that. Let's just look at the box and the kit for what it is. And let's just enjoy what is an absolutely superb plastic kit and leave it at that. So there you go. Detail, there's just every cannon port is open. So every cannon can be out and on display. And there is a cannon for every single port. So none of this where it's all been, basically plasticed over and none of that. Everything can be done. All the decks exist. We'll get to that. Every deck is there. Every deck can have cannons. You can go berserk with detailing this. There is a ton of aftermarket for it, but honestly, you can pretty well build this out of the box. Now, instructions, Hella instructions are ghastly. Maybe they make sense in French, but the English version, yep, this is an English version. Well, it's got a history, it's got a parts list. It's almost like a wood kit that you get sort of all that, and then you get some plans and they'll basically say go for it. You can download the MA instructions because obviously there's an MA release of this, and that's like recently I got the MA version of the La Corione, and that is a much better kit than the Hella one. Even though it's literally the same moulding, it's just so much better because the instructions make sense. MA had really nice instructions, even though they are in Japanese, but pictorially you can just follow them. The French instructions sometimes leave a lot to be desired, but you can work your way through. The trick is, this is not a kit that you just blindly build. You would do a lot of research and you check everything. You can see the guy that had it before me, he was writing in colours and things like that. So, mine is not a pristine model kit. It couldn't be sold as a collector's item because it's had a whole lot of scratching and things done. So here's all your decks. This is the thing. All your decks go in, and we'll get to that in a sec. I won't sort of dwell too much on instructions because they're of the period. They're just big exploded drawings, whole lot of stuff. There's kind of description at the side there. I think earlier instructions were worse. I don't know. But Hella instructions are just not easy to follow. At least these are the English versions, which is, a bit better. Sometimes you just get the French versions, a little conversion chart, which I've got in some of the other Hella kits. All right, so it's just a lot going on. Most people say allow a year to build this. Some people it's taken 3, 4, almost a lifetime. You do get reasonable rigging instructions, at least in my version. And there's a lot to do with the sails, although we'll get to the vac form sails in a sec. And yeah, so that's very comprehensive rigging there, and it's not bad. I've heard people complain, the rigging's not correct for this kind of ship. Well, I've had a look through this, and honestly, for a kit, yeah, models are not real things. They are close approximations, and they look sort of like the real thing. This looks like a Victory. You build this kit, no one's going to go, oh, is that a tank? They'll know it's a Victory, all right? They'll probably even know the name of the ship, which is unusual because normally most people just don't know. This part, I think, is superb. And I know, like Alex has got the photo etch, so he's got photo etch to replace all these window frames, but honestly, you really would have to be pedantic to do that, or simply wanting much more excellence. The same as the mouldings around here. They're good. They're not perfect. They're not 100% exact, but they're good. And if you paint them up, it looks like a victory. Okay, so sure, you could replace all of this and get all the photo etch, and you'll add another 2 years to your build. And I think that's what's happened with poor old Alex. Is his victory build's kind of slowed down because this is a big build anyway. And if you go and start adding photo etch and resin and all the rest of it, well, you're in for a long run. You know, probably 10 years. But honestly, the level of detail that Hella put into this is terrific. And you can admire it just for that. And it's a quite enjoyable kit just out of the box. Let's have a look what else we got here. As I said, I pulled, this was all pretty loose actually when I got it. And I pulled the whole thing apart, got every part out, went through the instructions, found every part. It took me almost a day. And there really wasn't much missing. I think there's a couple of little cannons missing or something which I could scratch. Probably get my friend Craig, Mr. Mouse Muffins. He might 3D print some for me. In fact, Craig sent me, and I haven't shown this yet, Craig sent me some 3D printed blocks, you know, for rigging. And they are terrific. They've got the holes, they've got the lines, the score lines to run the thread, everything, single, double blocks, you name it. I'll show those in a review. I'll do a review just of those things that he sent to me because they are fantastic. Now this is the beak head, or the bulkhead on the beak of the ship, and it paints up beautifully. I've seen people do an absolutely superb job of this. It's mostly blue and then it's got gold trim and all the rest of it. It's absolutely lovely. And the kit part, you wouldn't need to add anything to that. You can buy a resin one which is just that a little bit better, but honestly by the time you've built this, it's all together, you've got all the rigging on it, sitting on the shelf, and it starts to get a few years dust, it's not going to look any different. Honestly, it's not. Now I think these are one of my, this is one of my broken parts. There wasn't much broken, which is amazing considering so much was loose, but I think I've got a couple of broken parts which I put in this bag specially, which are part of the head rails. So they broke. See if I can get this out. So there's basically that's going to extend from that bow, and then your bowsprit's going to go out that much. So it gets a lot longer. There's your heads, okay? Basically that's what sits there at the bow on top of this stem, okay? Bear with me guys, I'm not feeling very well. I'll try and remember terms and things, so I'll do the best I can. But look, very nicely done. As you can see, my moulding, which is, say, is one of the 1980s mouldings, only the second release, is really devoid of any flash. I haven't seen any. We might see some later on, but it is very, very clean. And this plastic, it doesn't bend. It's brittle. All right, so this is a much better plastic than later on because it was reissued again in the early 2000s and then reissued again in 2012. And that plastic, a lot of people complain because the masts are so wobbly, they're just limp dicks, right? It's just pretty hopeless. But this plastic from the 1980s kit, I mean, I can't snap that, right? See me? I'm pushing with all the feeble strength I've got in my weak little man paws. It's nice and stiff. That's what she said. Yeah, yeah, there's the head rails, and those are not broken. The other one was broken. But look, there's very little cleanup on that. There's a tiny bit of seam edges that need tidying up, but look, that is clean. And again, I can't break it, okay? Yeah, if you had a long piece, you'd probably snap it. It's stiff plastic. This one is good, hard, and it's going to go all night long, girls. Yep. All right. Those I removed. They were actually all the broken pieces from the sails, because this sort of stuff that they press it out of, it's I think these are plastic, but it's like a vac form thing they do it on. And it had deteriorated so much over the years that it literally had shattered in the kit. But I kept all those pieces just in case something was needed. But I'm not a big one for vac form sales anyway. But again, just to give you a feeling of how big things are, that's the mainsail, right? That's the mainsail. And we get my little measuring stick out. That's a foot wide and at least 10 inches tall, right? So 30 centimetres and 22 centimetres. It is big. It is very big. But again, a lot of the Victory models I've seen, they've done them without any sails at all. And they look fine. That way you can show off all your rigging. You know, everything looks much better when you don't have it. You could put some furled sails on there, which is rolled up. That would be nice, and I probably might think of something like that. But rigging without the sails is also easier because there's a number of lines you don't have to put in, because you don't have to run a lot of the lines that hold the sails in place because they're not there. So there you go. So yes, I do have a complete set, and I think they're all okay, amazingly. They just basically all bent. Later on they used different material, and I've seen a few reviews. I watched a few reviews online this morning just to see what other people got to say. And I must say I was surprised there are people out there done great reviews and they know very little about ships and very little about the kit. But still, I found their reviews very enjoyable and interesting to watch. So I thought, okay, because I've been hesitant really to show this because I'm not an expert on the Victory. But I do know stuff about ships and I do know stuff about models. So I'm doing my review from that point of view. I think the later ones had slightly different plastic or a different material used with vac form sails, because I've seen them totally shattered. And that's only a kit that's 5 or 10 years old, you know, whereas this is 40 odd years old. Now, we'll get these out because this is what everyone complains about. This was actually a bag that was still fully sealed. So I will break the seal and get that out just to show the stiffness, because so many people go, oh, it's hopeless, I built it, and then all the masts and rings are loose. So I'm going to do that now. We'll just get into this. As I said, this is a bit of a relaxed opening of the box, and that's why I don't care how long it runs. You might, but you can skip through to the bits that you want. So it'll just be as long as it takes, and we'll just have a really good look. Because, I mean, if you're going to drag this kit out, and it was a big job to pull it out. So that gives you an idea. That's a lower section, and they're in halves. You get 2 halves, right? With the idea being that you'd stick something stiff in there. You could stick a piece of wood, or you could stick a metal rod, and that will give it more strength, okay? So over that length, yes, you will get a bit of flex. Okay, over that length, well, that's going to sort of happen anyway. I mean, even a piece of wood will flex a little bit. But the trick is, especially with these ones, the longer ones, is to put something inside them. Even the spars, right, the yards. Okay, that's one of the biggest yards. That's probably for the mainsail, by the looks of things. Or there might be a longer one, don't know. But certainly one of the larger yards. Now, that is in 2 halves. Okay, so it's again, and it has a whole hollowed out section so you can put something stiff in. So that was thought of, realising that plastic as a medium for something that big is probably not going to work very well. So even like here, in fact, that looks like, we'll have to see if there's more of those. That looks like, oh no, that's another one. I don't know. Okay, sorry. That's something, and it is hollow as well. It's only when they get really small that they haven't hollowed them out. And at that point, as I showed you, the plastic is strong enough, stiff enough, at least in this moulding, okay, in this early moulding from the 80s. So again, more yards, more of these. I hesitate to say that this is actually the mainsail one, and it's in 4 pieces so that you can join it all together. That would kind of make sense, but I could be wrong. But it certainly looks that way, doesn't it? Certainly, or it's just one of the upper mast pieces, don't know. The fighting platforms, I think that's beautifully moulded. I think that's really nice. Okay, lovely detail. Are you seeing any flash? Because I'm not, but I mean, I've got bandicoot eyes. So yeah, those platforms again, a nice bit of wood texture on there, which would paint up beautifully and it'll look quite good. Everything is nice and firm and nice and cleanly done. There might be, no, I don't think that's flesh. I think those are actually little nicks. There's tiny little nicks there. Don't know if you can see them, right? There's tiny little things, right? And I believe those are to catch rigging lines because they're consistent all the way through, so it's not flash. So you wouldn't want to click those off thinking, oh, I'll just clean these up and rip those off. There's little things everywhere which are obviously to aid with the rigging, which is good. Now, a lot of people say replace this, and probably they are right because this is the boom at the back there, right, the spanker boom. It's long, it's thin, and no matter what you do with plastic, it's going to wobble. So yeah, it wouldn't be that hard because there's not much detail on it, none at all. You only really got to have something on the tip here. Okay, the tip has got a hole in it, which, you know, so you replace it with a piece of wood or a piece of brass, something that you can get, you know. It doesn't have much of a taper, a little bit of a taper, but it wouldn't be that hard just to replace that with a rod of some sort. So probably even that one. Now that's definitely a mast. So I think that other thing I was talking about was a yard in 4 pieces. But there you go, that'll probably be a 4 mast because it's slightly short on the other one. And again, hollow it out, you just stick a rod in there. So to stop it all falling over, put some rods in there. But yes, look, beautifully moulded, nice and crisp. At least in my boxing, there's no problem. Now, there is wire in the kit, and I remember I figured out what it was for because it had me kerfunkled when I first looked through it. Mine was lost, scattered all through there. I eventually found them all. They're all fallen out the carpet. But there's wire in here, and we'll have a look at the instructions maybe afterwards and figure out what it was, because there's some sections where they ask you to use this wire. It's very malleable, very soft, so it doesn't really have any strength to hold anything. I think it's just for decoration. Second set of instructions, but these ones would be the French ones. Yeah, there's the French ones. Now, at least you got a full set of English and a full set of French. In a number of my other Hella kits, you get the French instructions, which are comprehensive and have everything, and then you just get a single sheet and with the instructions in like numbered order, and that's it. A little, you know, one single A4 or foolscap sheet. And then you've got to try and refer that back to the pictures and all the instructions in French, and that does make it very difficult. If you know ships, you'll just basically build the kit because you just look at them, identify the parts. We probably don't even build in the order they suggest. I mean, it's very rare I build a kit exactly in the order that the manufacturer intended. I usually look ahead and go, no, I'll build that sub-assembly, I'll do that, I'll do this, then I'll put that together, as I've discussed in my videos. Now here's your that's your main deck, and it's huge. It's a huge big deck piece. There are wood deck kits for this, but I bought enough of those veneer planks that you can put on so I could re-plank it myself, because the only bugbear I have with this, I mean, I think the texture's fine for painting. Okay, so the thing is, you look at the texture and it's overdone. You've got to remember, you're going to put a couple of layers of paint on that. A lot of that will disappear. But the beauty is you can run a wash over it and you'll get some effect. That's what it's for. It's like Airfix kits. They kind of, you know, the panel lines are too big and things are overdone so that you can hand paint it and then everything's noticeable. That's the thing. I mean, there's kits out there with wonderful panel lines on. You put your first coat of paint, all gone. Yeah, you got to think of that. There's other layers going on. This isn't the end of the process. Anyhow, the only bugbear I have here is they have done, and I don't know if you can see it, plank ends, like plank end, plank through, plank end, plank through, right? And essentially, that's not how ships are usually done. The planking is all staggered. Now, I certainly would look online at the Restored Victory and see what theirs is like. But honestly, all the books I've read and all the model makers who know what they're talking about, we talk about at least a 3 or 4 pattern of staggering. And that is how you do your decks. And you also would have a series of planks right along the edges that are cut with like little zigzag cutouts. So, who's in here? Oh, hello, Ned. Hello, Ned. Sorry, I've got glasses on that can't read that thing. As I said before, even though this is live, it's really designed to be watched in its entirety as a replay. So yeah, the planking can come up nicely, it'll paint up nicely, but it will annoy me that it's done wrong. So I'll probably gently sand that down, and I've got the wood veneer to put on there, and I can get my correct stagger, and I can run the edging, right? Because there should be, I forget the name of it, but there is literally planking that goes, or a plank that goes all the way around, and it's in various pieces, and then it is cut out with zigzags to match up to the straight up and down, right, planks, because this will be an angle. I'll have to get the name of that. I forget it at the moment, guys. Bear with me, I am not feeling well. I really am not. So I'll do this review, and then I'm going back to bed, and tomorrow I'll get on with the saddlist. Internally, well, just under that you have another layer, and it's in two pieces. I think the thing being that you could glue them into either side of the hull, and then you can bring the hull halves together. I don't know. There's some method to their madness here of having it in two pieces, and they just basically lock over the top of each other. Could be an added strength sort of thing, don't know. So, you know, maybe a design so you can put the hull halves together, and then you can sneak the deck seat pieces in and click them in afterwards. Maybe that's it. I'd explore that more when I build it. But this is going underneath that, so you would see this one above that one. Okay. So again, very nice, lovely little gratings. The gratings are quite good. You can buy all this stuff aftermarket. There's aftermarket gratings and all kinds of things, but honestly, the moulding is terrific, and it's a plastic kit. You know, it's a plastic kit. Just enjoy it for what it is. It's lovely. It really is. And as I said, the more aftermarket stuff you buy, this 1, 2, 3, 4 year long build is going to blow out to like 10 years, and it's just going to annoy you. Now the mid decks, right, the ones underneath that, are devoid of any detail because, well, you won't see them really through anything. Even those gratings, you won't see them. The cannon ports, which are all open, will just look in. But these are designed purely to mount all the cannons on, because you have full detailed, fully moulded cannons for every single level. So that is what this kit is all about. That's, you know, the big thing about it is that every deck is there. Every deck is fully populated with all the cannons, and they are there in full detail. So you'll see what you'll see. Now, there's some weird colours that, hello, oh, here's some more broken parts. Yeah, that's part of that thing that I said was broken. That's the rest of it, so I really need to keep that nice and safe over here. So we have the rudder in a very garish red. These are pieces that I think fit along inside the hull there. They obviously needed to be red, or they could be, oh, look, I could be wrong, they could be there to hold the guns in place. Don't know. So there's a lot of parts here that I would have to look in the instructions to really know what they are, but they are a horrible garish red. But here, this is so that all the cannon ports are basically a red colour before you paint them, which, oh, well, you know, great. I think actually we decided these days they're black, so they could be red on the inside, so there you go. And then there's a few other little pieces here. Another piece for the up there on the prow, and a bulkhead. So yeah, bright red. Goodness knows, it doesn't really make sense to have them red, but there you go. Usually you get like the cannon trucks are all red. Now, this sprue is much maligned because usually it's covered in flash from arsehole to breakfast. But if you have a look at mine, there is no flash. And these are all your Deadeyes and your blocks, okay? Actually, mainly Deadeyes, I think. Are there blocks in there as well? No, they're all Deadeyes. Right, this sprue is just Deadeyes. There's no flash, not in this moulding. And this is the nice stiff plastic. So although normally we'd say, oh, look, I wouldn't use plastic bloody Deadeyes, your Deadeyes for this kit, if you were to buy them all in wood, and I've just done this exercise for the Airfix St. Louis, and I won't be putting as much rigging on it as you would put on this Victory. And I spent $100, like 10 shekels Australian, $70 US, all right? That's how much I spent on blocks alone, not even counting rigging line. Lucky I have some, I wanted to buy some more. But I decided to get as many of the blocks as I could to do a faithful sort of representation of rigging, and that's what I spent. You could easily spend 200 Australian dollars, like $150 US, on blocks if you want to go wood, for this kit. But we do have some clear parts here, so this is rather nice. You have the windows for the back area, okay, for the stern. That whole transom there with the captain's cabin and all that sort of thing, officers' cabin and the lunchroom. You have clear lamps, okay. So that's lovely. I think one's missing. That was one of my problems, unless I'd found it somewhere and I put it in a bag. But that's the one that's actually up on the top of a mast. So it's not that one a real problem. Anyhow, I could these days cast that using some white wood glue, and it would make a clear part. It's not a problem. I do have something missing there, so that could be one of the hands. So I've got some other little missing parts. Some of them I found. There were only a couple of parts I couldn't find. But it's lovely that you actually have all these clear parts. Now, again, black on black with black. Here we have blocks again, lots of them, and mine are clear. Well, sorry, clear of flash. They're black, of course, and that's, there's some tiny ones there. And again, unless you really want to spend the money, and if you're rich enough to spend a couple of $100 on blocks, these will suffice. Now here's part of your cannons. These are the trucks, the size of the trucks. The one thing with the cannons for this victory is you build up everything. You've got to build up the wheels, you've got to build up the base, you've got to build up the truck's sides, everything. Then you put the cannon in. So multiply that by at least 100. I think there's, 102 on the victory? I forget. There's certainly at least, if not more than 100 cannons on the victory. So there's a lot of trucks to make up. You could spend weeks just building those and paying them alone. So that will keep you busy. There's lots of the same cannons, okay? Now these aren't split, are they? Yep. So your cannons are actually split. So every cannon you have to use 2 parts to make them up. This did make them hollow, and the open end, right, is hollow all the way back. So yes, terrific for realism, but goodness me. You can buy aftermarket complete set of cannons in their trucks all ready to go, 3D printed, but they're not cheap. Again, you'll spend $100 for those. So here you have all the little pieces you need to make cannons, and yes, most of them, those, yep, they're all 2 halves. So if you've got 100 cannons and you've got 2 halves for your barrels, there's 200 of those to put together just to make the barrels. Then you've got 2 truck sides, a bottom, some wheels, another 5. You've got 1,000 other parts to put together just to make the trucks. Yeah, you're going to be busy. You're going to be very busy. Cotton thread. And interesting colours. There's sort of a duty colour there, which is terrific. That'll be good for all the running rigging. Often I like it a bit browner, but that would still be fine. But why we have green, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Luckily, I've got some MA cordage, and I've actually got some coming from my friend Ed. Ed, if you're watching, thank you so much. He's got a whole lot of cordage that he got, which was pre-waxed or something, and he's sending to me, so that might be useful. Now, these seem to be all roughly the same width, so that doesn't work as well. Because in your ships, your mainstays will be one width. Usually they're 1/6 the diameter of the mast. So your main mast, say if your main mast is 6 millimeters wide, right, you're going to need 1 millimeter diameter cordage to run those big heavy stays, those forward stays that hold in place. So you need that. Then you get to your ratlines. Now the ratlines consisting of shrouds which go vertically, and ratlines that actually are the horizontal bit that the sailors tread on. So the vertical shrouds are tarred and they're black, and they'll be half again the size of the stay for that mast. So if the mast was 6 millimeters diameter, that means the mainstay that holds it down is 1 millimeter. Well, the shroud will be 0.5 millimeter. That's kind of how you work it out. Then you halve that again, roughly, and that'll give you the horizontal lines, the actual ratlines, and they are a jute colour. They're not black. They don't put tar on the lines that the sailors are treading their feet on, okay? The only lines that are tarred are the lines that never move. That's why it's called fixed rigging. So the shrouds, which go up and down, they never move. They're locked in place. They hold the mast in place, and they provide the framework for the ratlines, which are horizontal, which are all looped, and the sailors are treading on those going up and down. So the ratlines horizontal parts, they'll fall off every now and then, or they'll break, so they're easy enough replaced because they're running rigging. And that's the thing, running rigging tends to disintegrate more than fixed rigging because it's running around doing things. Okay, there is, and I've never even looked at it, there is this, but it's for the D. Agostini, right, which I think is a wood kit. So it still would be interesting, and it still would give you a lot of hints as to how the whole ship goes together, and that would be very useful. But yeah, he had that in there, so there you go. We'll have to sit down and watch that one day when I'm going to build it. This is the usual sort of, oh yes, you get the flags. They're not much good. I don't like these. I don't like it when they're curved, okay, because that's ridiculous. It's much better to have straight flags and then you bend them, curve them. You either soak them in glue and bend them to shape so they'll fix the shape. I would get silk flags, which are not expensive, silk or even just some good cotton flags. They're not expensive to buy in scale. I bought a whole lot. I bought some for my bounty, but I haven't actually used them yet. And I've got some for even my Schnell boat. I've got proper little cotton or silk flags. They're material flags. They're really good. And the beauty is they're printed on both sides, so, you know, that's how they are. Oh, that's just your whole thing, you know. Don't cut yourself, don't glue your mustache, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Now, in mine, he had collected a whole lot of stuff, so there's a whole thing here. Actual photographs of the real Victory, or a real Victory. Well, actually are photographs of the Victory. And it looks like they might be pre-pink, as I'm still not sold on this whole pink thing. I mean, ships get painted different colours at different times, and you could do the Victory in so many different liveries, all right? Because it did get repainted by various captains. It wasn't always Nelson's ship. That's a misconception. And also, when it was put on display, when it was rescued and put on display for Queen Victoria, that I think is when we had the yellow look, because they were her colours, I believe. I believe that's how the story goes. Correct me if I'm wrong, no doubt people will. But there's some lovely shots here of the inside and all the rest of it. I know some people go berserk and do the whole checkerboard floor inside the Victory, you know, in there, because you can kind of see in through the windows. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, again, another week's work, adding to what is a huge build. Building H.M.S. Victory, War at Sea. So I don't know, I think that was one of those once a month kits that you get. Look at that, that's useful. You don't get those if you're Victory. These just happen to be in mine, so that's kind of nice. We've got some of the sprue here, so yeah. Will it bend? Yes. But it's not, well, it's probably not as bad as later versions, but still, it's plastic, it will bend. Now, many of you might have seen one of these, and I showed an Airfix one, which is exactly the same tool. This is a tool to basically make your ratlines. You can actually make them up off the model and then glue them on afterwards. There are certain problems and pitfalls doing that. It's not a way I like to go about doing it. And there's also another little jig in here, which apparently for building the hammocks, you can make all the hammocks in this. There's the stand, which doesn't seem like it's really big enough, but that's obviously it. Anchors are huge. I mean, they're as long as my fingers. Anchors are huge on this. People complain about the ship's wheel. It's devoid of detail. It is fairly simplistic, but from memory, it's in a place where it's not that prominent, and you can only sort of see it under. So, you know, it's probably good enough for what can be seen, and there's no need to go any further. Same as there isn't a full, as far as I'm aware, there isn't a full cabin for the captain and everything. A lot of people scratch that. So, Harry, fully clothed? Yes, mate. Yes, mate, I am fully clothed. Temperature has dropped 10 degrees. This is the difference between today. I haven't even got the fan on in here. I'm a little bit warm under the lights, but I have doors open and air flowing. I mean, it was so hot, it was in the low 30s with an apparent temperature of 39, which is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what it was. And I turned the air conditioner off. I mean, I chilled the room down nicely. Then I turned the air conditioner off, and I did try to do that quick video for the gooch, but I really should have taken more breaks and turned the air conditioner back on, because I really was on a run when I was doing those A to Z, and I just kept going. But towards the end, I was getting so lightheaded. That's why I couldn't remember names for things. So that's what happened, and I got heat stroke. I got very sick. So I was a mess yesterday. So yesterday I had all plans to do this and start work on the sadist, and nothing happened, or even paint the Panther, and I spent the whole day in bed. That's an absolute duplicate of that other sprue. So that's what's going on there. And I'll try hard not to lose some ladders and bits and pieces. So we have a bowsprit with the looks of things. Looks very much like a bowsprit because it's got the little cant there, which obviously would be the piece that goes upward from that. You wouldn't have that on a mast. So that's there. And again, that is in two halves so that you can put things inside. Okay, I'll have a look at everything that you guys are typing in just a sec. I'll just get through the last of this. Again, detail is very good. I mean, I hope you can see it. Detail is very good. There's absolutely fine detail, and I have no flash on my kit. We haven't really found any yet. So my moulding from what would probably be the early 80s has virtually no flash. So yeah, I won't even try and name what parts are. I've kind of got lost now, but there you go. There's that. Oh, I know some of these. And not the poop deck, as some people call it. It's quarter deck. It's quarter deck. You need a poop deck would be right at the end, a little one, but that's essentially a quarter deck. Great big Victory nameplate there, and that would be your main mast fighting platform, and it is very nicely moulded and lovely detailed. Yes, there's some injection points there you'll need to clean up, but they're on the bottom. All right, so only the pirates can see them, so it's not too much. That's part of your stand, which is very, very small. Very, very, you wouldn't think it'd hold that whole kit up, but because it clicks in, their stand would be a solution. You can try and build your own, and then if it fell over, you'd be kind of regretting the whole thing. So there we go. So some nice parts there. Boats, ship's boats. See how big they are. I mean, you know, nearly as big as that Vespucci that I'm building at the moment. It's only a little bit longer than that. You know? So that gives you a feel for what's happening here. And they have wood effects on them, although the planks aren't scored. I'd probably want a clinker plank kind of look on mine, because usually your boats are not flush plank, they're all clinker planked with, you know, sticking out. But there is everything you need, all the details there. You can build a really beautiful kit out of the box. You really can. There's, you know, there is no need for aftermarket. You'd only do it if you are insane. No, well, you know, if you've got nothing else to do and you can spend all your time building this, if it's your retirement project, I'm sorry we're fighting with a bit of traffic here, it is Saturday morning. If you are doing this as a retirement project and you can have a room dedicated to it where you can just leave it where it's sitting, you know, basically when you're finished for the day and walk out and come back to it the next day, and it's what you do every day, yes, go for it. It'll keep you busy for years. And it has taken some people years to do. Okay, well that is everything that is in my Hell of Victory box. So that is the kit. And Bastacat has left now. If you only tuned in late, you've missed Bastacat. She was here, but she's left. So as you can see, it is a huge kit. It is a lot of work, and it's mighty. It really is. You probably want to get the oldest moulding that you could, like a 79 original or this second Reeboks version, right? The Reeboks version that I've got from around the 80s. I don't know exactly in the 80s where it is. It doesn't really say on the kit. If I ever find out, I'll let you know. But this one, surprisingly, is the Heller Humbrol. So you could probably do research on Heller and find at what point Humbrol was chipping in the money and they put their name on things. And that'll give you an idea for when this model was released. But look, it is the best, I might hesitate to say, it is the best plastic styrene Victory kit you can get if you want a big one, all right? The new Revel 220-ish scale one is lovely, and it's a thing that you could build in a few months, and it comes up perfectly, and it's so well moulded. It's a much nicer engineered kit in some ways than this, but it will not have the impression, like the sheer wow factor. Like if you spent 5 years building this and you put it in a glass case in your house, people will just go, wow, it is a museum piece by the time it's finished. If you spent the time on it. Yeah, you're going to have to fiddle a little bit, and you might need to fiddle with a few things, but honestly, I just love this, and I am saving it for later. I mean, I probably shouldn't, because later on, the way my eyes are going and my hands are wobbling and my health is deteriorating, maybe I should build it sooner than later. I hope you enjoyed this review, because I know so many people wanted to see this kit because it's not something that everyone can either afford or get their hands on. So now you've seen it, and I hope I've shown it in as much detail as I can, even if my knowledge level isn't there for exactly what everything is. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. All right. It's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.